what are some real world kind of ways that in 2021, in the world that we live in now, that women can reclaim their femininity and let that that full force of what they are, that beautiful force of nature, that femininity blossom in them and radiate it out into their lives with their loved ones?
Yeah, well, I should say I'm smitten with Philosophicat and very grateful that she came on Heart and Helm. And oh, is there an echo? Sorry. No.
Sound good to me.
Yes, and the work that she has done with her Revolt Against the Modern World series has been just very enlightening and interesting. So I highly recommend people go check it out. One of the things that struck me, that's really stuck with me, that she expressed in one of those creations that she made was that to be feminine, to fully embrace your femininity, you must give yourself over and devote yourself to another being a man. And I think that that's certainly something that we have a big problem with in the West today is this hyper individualistic attitude that everyone has, but especially women. It's all about just satisfying in the moment. How do I feel? And that doesn't work for me. And it's if this commitment doesn't feel good, then I'm just going to go and just drop it, and maybe I'll try something different or something new. And this is very antithetical. It's very unnatural to the way that our people have thrived and functioned for millennia. We were never just individuals floating around and satisfying, our various wants, in the moment. We were a cohesive people. We are still today, even though so much is broken, it's still there. And we have to kind of mend that back. So, like I said, that really struck a chord with me. And, I've seen a lot of couples, sadly, they'll, get married and then it's like, oh, it's not working out. And so they just divorce. And especially if there are children involved, I mean, that is 9 times out of 10, I would say 99% of the time, unless there's some sort of really crazy severe abuse or, drug problems or something, there's very few reasons why people should actually divorce. And I see marriage as being it's such a beautiful thing. It is truly a sacred union, and to give yourself over to your children and your husband and to love them unconditionally. I guess that's, that is a major part of femininity, and it's something that's a learning process. We on Hearth and Helm sometimes will get comments occasionally where some women say, well, not everybody's perfect and this and that. And it's like, we're never trying to present ourselves as like, oh, we're these perfect wives who never lose our temper and have never once raised our voices to our children. But we believe strongly that we have a lot of undoing to do, like layers of an onion. We believe strongly that we have grown up with a lot of indoctrination and muck and mud. And this is not, maybe not everyone could agree to this, but I think that most of us in the West today, if we're really honest about it, we can say that we have had a lot of indoctrination, a lot of anti-white indoctrination, and that's deep. That's very deep. And so it can manifest in those ways of just like ending relationships, whether it's like a relationship with a man that you're involved with, or a friendship with another female. We have female friends and that sort of things. We do talk a lot about maintaining frith and the importance of that and the importance of forgiving. I love how Jason mentions this a lot on his streams, how, this is a movement of redemption. Like, we certainly feel that way. We're all constantly growing and changing and hopefully, ideally, trying to better ourselves and learn from our mistakes. And that's, something, I guess, on kind of a more deeper level as far as femininity goes. I think that we as women have a lot of work to do. And I think we should also have grace with one another as we are coming into our femininity more, as individuals, but also just as a group, as people. Yeah. Like, we've got to end this hate between the sexes and this, also the hyper judgmentalism too. Like some women, maybe they feel like they're expressing their femininity best by wearing a particular style of clothing and decorating their house from, you know, a certain historical era, and that's something they really love, then we support that. That's great. If that's working for them and they're happy and they're thriving and they're married and their kids are happy, and that's great. Other women, maybe they express their femininity in a different way, in a different style, but that you know, giving yourself over to another, you know, the devotion, I suppose, the devotion to your partner and to your children is the top, I guess, the top example that I would give. And that's why homeschooling is one of those things. It's sacrifices. You know, we do make sacrifices, and that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing. It's gift for gift. You know, it's not as though we're miserable. When we do these things, it actually makes you feel happy, like truly happy inside, because it's a loving thing. It's not a hateful thing. So I don't know. I mean, those are some of my.
It's an interesting thing to unthread. Part of it is just by your example. That's why it's important for all of us to be sharing what we're doing and learn from each other and inspire each other. Because if I may say, you're obviously, it's not like you're a shrinking violet. Like, you're still very feminine, but when you get up here, you know what you want to say and you express it strongly, not in any kind of off-putting masculine way, as appropriate for a woman, but there's a direction to what you speak about. And you're able to do it in a way that doesn't detract one iota from your femininity. And sometimes it's not just explaining, well, how do you do it? Because I would imagine that's a hard question. I know what it's like to be on the hot seat. I'm usually the one asking the questions. But it's hard to kind of like observe yourself and analyze yourself, especially in real time on a stream. I know these are difficult questions because, I mean, I think about this too. That whole serving thing, because I do understand that, where as a man, I obviously, you see a good deal of it in what I do publicly, but there's very much a direction and a purpose and a mission that I'm on. And so I can understand that in a certain way, a woman, of course, in my life supports that. And it's kind of like I'm providing the arrow, like the direction we're going in. And she also inspires that and is part of that as well. And I know that Philosophica has spoken about that. We spoke to her a little bit about her feminine and masculine series as well a couple of years ago on tap. So it's like, on the one hand, someone like me, of course, wants a woman that understands I have this mission and isn't going to be giving me friction. But at the same time, I'm a curious person and I like to communicate and check in on things and talk to the closest people in my life. And I wouldn't want a woman who is just like a wallflower, just like, yes, okay, whatever you say, because you know, there's all of these different nuances. And this is what I mean about people getting into this very like black and white paint by numbers kind of thing online. It's like, well, this didn't work and we're in this dire straits now. So we get to this very crude, very childish, well, women just have to shut up and just do what they're told. Then it's like, guys, come on, you sound like bratty 11-year-olds. I didn't even talk like that when I was 11. You know, it's like, get off the internet and get off into real life a little bit. So it's these interesting weavings, because it's like you still have a certain strength and agency as a woman, but there is that love and that support and that devotion. You know, I'm listening to how you there's also just spaces for men and women too. Obviously, with your kids, like everything you were talking about with homeschooling before, it's interesting, and I'm sure on an intellectual level, I could sit down and say, okay, with my kids, I might have to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how I would plan my day. But trying to imagine like the day to day as a man, like having to like deal with the kids and teach them, it sounds like a different planet to me, you know. And it's not like I'm a loving person. I'm a compassionate person, but it's so clearly women are designed to be dealing with young children in that way that just a man isn't. I can love children in a different way, but the thought of like day in and day out having to like take kids around and give them lessons like that, it's like even hearing you talk about it is like, woo, that's a different world to me, you know? So to whatever degree is appropriate, of course, because I know some of this is personal, but is there anything that you can share about that dance between, you know, being someone who you obviously you have something to say, you're not a weak woman, but also I'm sure there's times when you know, support your husband and kind of you're kind of the wind beneath his wings as like he's setting the sails for certain directions in your family. Is there anything you could speak to about that?
Yeah, that is interesting and quite a big question.
I know it's a mouthful.
First of all, I should say with the teaching the kids all day, you forgot about the snacks every 15 minutes. That has to happen too, because they, you know, they're really hungry all the time. So it's like whack-a-mole, like they keep popping up. I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that, man.
It's so funny. Well, my husband says I'm a pushover too, because I do tend to give in. I know I should be very strict and say no snacking in between meal times, but I'm like, okay, go ahead. So yes, well, I guess first of all, I would say that I'm very grateful that my husband and I, gosh, I mean, we have been together 15 years now. And honestly, that's just uncommon. I hardly meet any other couples who've been together for who are around our age, you know, who've been together for a long time. So
beautiful thing. You should tell him if he wants to show his face, he should come on one time and say hi and tell us some of his secrets of how constructing a beautiful relationship that you have. That's wonderful.
Oh, well, yeah, he is more of an in-person, face-to-face kind of a guy. So hopefully you will have the chance to meet in person one of these days soon. But
I'd love to.
Yeah. But I guess I would just say, gosh, okay, so skipping around here. We, you know, I mean, I suppose I am a strong woman, and I know I'm not supposed to say that. You know, you kind of touched on that, how we have in the sphere, you know, there are these kind of black and white viewpoints on that. And, you know, there's a meme and it's making fun of like the strong woman, right? And I get that. But, you know, I am a strong spirited woman, and that's just who I am. There are different types of women. And this is one of the things, bringing back Philosophica's work, how she talks about the Demeter type, and then the, oh gosh, what's the other goddess's name? I forgot now.
Aphrodite.
Yes, Aphrodite. Yeah. The Demeter.
By the way, you can be strong as a woman.
Yes, right. And you know, there's a such thing as, you know, personality differences, and some women are more outgoing than others. And as you said, you know, you desired a woman who might not just be a wallflower, who maybe does challenge you from time to time. Well, you know, I would say this. I mean, my husband and I are best friends. I mean, he is my best friend. He's the only person in the entire world who I trust. I don't care, you know, how long I've known somebody and I consider them a friend. That's great and all. But as far as like, just, you know, excuse me, but your ride or die, like, you know, trusting and best friend, we are so tight. And yes, over the years, like we have challenged each other and we've grown together. Like we grow, we challenge one another, we support one another in our personal hobbies and endeavors. You know, he's supportive of the things that I'm interested in doing. And so, you know, he loves the Hearth and Helm podcast. He's been supportive of that. And, you know, he also has his personal interests and hobbies and you know, friend circles and that sort of thing. And of course I support that. And as far as the feminine aspect coming back into play, yes, women are naturally the nurturers. And I can't imagine not nurturing. I guess I feel sorry for women who are lacking that because of all of the modern indoctrination, women who can't feel what it feels like to nurture, you know, another, like your husband, to care for them, to love them. I mean, and when I look at his face and I see him and I take him in and I'm just like, you are such a beautiful being. And like, when I see the other beautiful men in the white positive sphere, our folk, our people, the men have been so mistreated, and it's actually really heartbreaking. And the amount of hate that has been directed towards them it's unnatural. And I guess I just would say to any, like, maybe new young women, or not just young women, but if there are any women listening who have kind of just come into this and are just now kind of waking up to all of the anti-white indoctrination, that's something I would really want them to consider. Just how much indoctrination have they received that is hating our men, hating the men, hating men for being men. And you've also mentioned the importance of men and women having separate spaces too. And yes, like there are plenty of spaces where we thrive and do well together in the community aspect,
Yes.
but it is so important for women and men to have separate spaces too. And one example that I love to give is like birth time. When women are having children, giving birth, when new babies are born, only women are able to really be there emotionally fully in the way that the birthing or pregnant mother really needs. A lot of guys, we're also isolated, right, in these nuclear families, and pregnancy can be rough because the hormones are crazy, and what the woman is needing is like somebody she can cry to and be emotional with about all this stuff. And the husband often he can't do that because maybe it's not as though men aren't emotional. I don't mean to say that, but in that nurturing way, and this is where you would have like your mother, your grandmother, your sister,
who have been through it, of course.
Right, exactly. And men are just different. Like there's another common theme, it's kind of a meme, and you hear about, I'll hear this from some kind of mainstream modern women, like, oh, I always have to plan our dates, they'll complain. I'm always the one that has to plan the dates. He never plans the dates. And I guess, like, I would just say, well, then maybe you're better at planning the dates. And as long as you're both having a nice time on the date, then who cares if he didn't come up with the idea on his own? Who cares if it wasn't a storybook where he laid the picnic blanket out and brought the wine and the flower petals? It's just, I don't know.
Just to round that out a little bit, though, don't you think that the deeper desire there is, again, she's craving the man giving that direction? Because I could understand that on a more fundamental level.
That is true. That's very true, because women do want men to lead, and that is a big one. And it's kind of like a taboo thing that, you're not supposed to say, because you don't want to imply that men aren't doing a good enough job or aren't leading. But yes, it's very important.
Can I just quickly key into one thing that you said? Because you said a phrase that was essentially the nub of what I was trying to get at when I was setting up the question, because we know what it means for a woman to nurture her children. We can picture what that means and what that looks like. And you spoke a little about the homeschool aspect earlier tonight. You said this key phrase, nurture your husband. What does that look like a little bit, nurturing your husband?
Well, I mean, on a basic day-to-day level, it's like just being supportive, showing appreciation for how hard they're working in whatever way that is. I mean, around here, not only is my husband working at his off the farm job, but he's busting his butt here at the farm and to provide for us. And, no one wants to work hard and sacrifice for their family and not feel appreciated. I mean, that white males today have so many things going against them in this world, and there needs to be a sanctuary, and that sanctuary has to be home with a loving wife, and men are not just like these hard, non-emotional beings. They also want to have a hug and have touch and these things that help all beings thrive.
I think this came up, Jason, I don't know if we talked about this. I feel like I talked about this. I can't underestimate, and in a broad sense, I guess you could say, but not in a specific sense. I'm not speaking sexually, of course. That I could just tell, even if it's just like on the back of my neck, I can tell a female touch from a male touch. Like, even if I didn't see the person, there's just this, I can't explain how important it is for a man to feel that nurturing, soft, feminine energy. It's like, it just soothes your whole being. And it sounds like you're also saying um, some of the things you provide for your husband would be, in my language, I don't know if there's better words for it, but celebrating him, honoring him, of course.
Yes, yes, and cooking. You know, if you can cook, that's my husband really appreciates that I cook good food for him. I know that it sounds.
Yeah,
I know it sounds.
it's not just functional. It's not just functional. I've seen it. It's really how it's an art form. Women can really communicate their love and care through food. Absolutely. I think we lost your video.
No, we didn't. We did. She's grabbing a charger, and
okay.
I will just make a couple of points and then come back to these wonderful financial gifts with questions, I believe, and some laudations for Sarah. I would just like to say what struck me that Sarah was saying, and folks, if you have any financial gifts with questions, that might be all that we have time left. We'll be tapping out at exactly 7:45 Eastern Standard Time. So questions without financial gifts might end up being passed over, because we want to make sure that everybody who is financially gifted gets their time in the sun naturally. But I just want to quickly say that what we really have, I mean, and Sarah was touching upon this, is that in the West, we have a situation where women dominate legally and societally, and they take that power into the home. And if we are going to survive, a big part of our survival, the reclamation of our people, the recapture of our destiny, it is going to be a result of our women overcoming this part of anti-whiteism, which has enthroned them as these leaders, as these absolute tyrants in the relationship with a man. It is disgusting. My entire life has been nothing but hearing about these stories of it, just the opposite, absolute minuscule, and seeing it all around me. These women dominating and the reason why men are gelded, there are no white men anymore. The reason why the white men that are left are mostly without women is because the women are in the home dominating the men. Women in the relationships are dominating the men, and then they're telling the men what to do, how to behave, according to her instincts, according to the fear of what the mob thinks, according to all of these different things that have so much more importance for a woman, genetically, spiritually, whatever it might be, in her dealings with children, in the way she is gifted to be able to deal with children and the family and etc. Now that has become how we deal with society, and that simply does not work. We need men being men, and right now, unfortunately, and you want to know a great example for any ladies out there. I mean, first of all, you have to be if you're a woman and you are saying, "Well, women don't dominate," you are lying. Or you're to yourself and you are aware of it, or you're lying to yourself and you're unaware of it. Because everybody knows, I mean, you're at like the family get together, the whatever it might be, the Thanksgiving or whatever it is, one female get upset and everybody there jumps up to make it okay for her. A man gets upset, nobody cares. A man gets upset and people are like, well, screw him. Let him be pissed off, and maybe one or two go out. They want to try to just calm things down. Everybody moves when a female gets upset. What can we do? How can we make it better? The relationships are not working on a grand scale across the West because men get into these relationships and then women begin telling them, they begin controlling through manipulation, just through outright sheer dominance, through it's going to be my way or the highway, through the fact that she can always call on law or society to support her in her domination of the man. And over the years, and even months, he becomes increasingly gelded. And we no longer see a male there. And everybody, we see this joke of, well, is she happy? Because then we're happy. You are a loser if you say that.
I hate that. Whenever I've heard men say that, I push back on that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Happy wife, happy life. I'm like, oh my God, come here. We have to talk.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want my woman to be happy, but it's the whole mentality.
Right. It's the happy tyrant, happy life, happy dominator, happy life. That's what these gelded, feckless losers are saying. So we're going to have to this is a big issue. It's a big part of anti-whiteism. And because anti-whites have set up society so that women have this legal dominance and this social dominance, white women are going to have to take it upon themselves to not dominate their men, because the only answer a man has to that is to walk away from her. That's the only answer to end the relationship, to just walk away, because that's the only thing she can't still control if she decides to do so. She cannot chain him to the house anymore. You know what she can do, though? If there's children, she can use the law to punitively follow him into perdition. So white women are going to have to make the decision to assume the role that they are supposed to assume in most relationships, so that men and women fit together harmoniously. They fit together physically, they fit together spiritually, they fit together intellectually, they fit together in all of these ways, and it is a beautiful thing when they do. We do not have that. We have sheer domination by women every single place I turn, and it is disgusting. I've told the story, I don't have time to tell it right now, but I've told it many times about the gigantic Nordic Superman human being at the gym who was built like a monster. This wide and 6.5 feet tall and beautifully muscled. And his little tiny wife told him what he was going to do with his life. Disgusting. And the reason he had to obey? Because the law and society would side with her. So it's obviously a serious issue.